he's like grabbing my breasts. He's touching my thighs. He rips my underwear off. And then he proceeds to do a cavity search. He said he was looking for his drugs, his cocaine, his coke. I was wondering how somebody who didn't do cocaine and was against it, that was in and of itself causing problems in our relationship. How could I hide? Why would I hide his drugs from, like he was insinuating that I was doing it or something? It made no sense. And he was telling me we're gonna conduct a cavity search, shall we? Like, just shoved his fingers inside me. I just stood there staring at the stupid light. I didn't know what to do. I just stood there. While he did that, he just twisted his fingers around.
Okay, Marie, so that is one of the worst accounts. I mean, they're all really awful, what she levied against Johnny Depp. But the jury rejecting that sexual violence headline, the jury saying that sexual violence headline, that title is defamatory, they're basically saying what she just said is not true. So that can't be perjury right there.
What they're saying in their rejection of her claim is they did not believe it to be true. Not necessarily that it wasn't true, but she failed to prove it to them by clear and convincing evidence that that happened.
Okay, so, but again, was there something when you listen to that makes you think, you know what, I kind of see where the jury came from, why they didn't believe it? For this one in particular, I don't recall any contributing evidence to this, any supporting evidence. This was actually during the event in Hicksville in the trailer park. There was a witness who was called to the stand who owned that trailer park, said that Amber Heard was the one who was emotionally abusive that day, didn't really see the kind of destruction in the trailer that Amber Heard had kind of described. What was missing from this account for the jury to believe it?
What was missing was outside corroborating evidence, not from Amber Heard or from an unbiased witness, to justify that account. What was missing was looking at the totality of the circumstances, and I remember that incident clearly. She said they got into an argument because he was jealous of another woman who was in their circle, coming on to her, and he grabbed the woman's arm and said, "That's my girl, stop checking for her," paraphrasing, "I will break your effing arm." That woman was never put on the stand.
Right.
The only person they had was someone who eyewitnessed the event and never saw it happen. So that's why they didn't believe her, because the facts leading up to it were never corroborated, her version of it. And even afterwards, like you said, there was no total destruction of the place. She says he gave her a manual vaginal cavity search looking for drugs. He ripped her gown. And again, her being the person who memorializes everything pictorially, didn't even take a picture of the gown.
And let me ask you this real quick before we go to our next clip. This feels like an instance where people say someone falsely accuses another of sexual assault. Have you ever seen a case where somebody does falsely accuse someone of sexual assault? They go on the stand. They say that person raped me. It turns out to not be true, and that person is prosecuted for perjury. Because wouldn't this be the same exact thing?
I haven't seen it personally. However, I know that it has happened when the allegations are so false and so damning. And there is so much evidence that proves beyond a reasonable doubt that it could have never happened. I believe if it was that type of situation, that a person could be prosecuted.
Okay, and let's be very clear. I'm not advocating for Amber Heard to be prosecuted for perjury. I'm just addressing what a lot of people are wondering as they're looking at this case. I mean, this is the number one question people keep asking us. So we're exploring all the different possibilities here. All right, let's move on. Amber Heard alleged that, I believe in 2015, Johnny Depp headbutted her. This was one of the profound instances of alleged physical abuse. Let's play it for you.
Oh, you really want to go, huh? Oh, you're so tough. I stood back up again. This time he hits me in the face. I stand back up and look him right in the eyes. And it was just a really still moment. I'll never forget it. Really still. I stood up and he said, you want to go again, tough guy? And I just looked right at him, just looked right at his face. And he balled up his fists, leaned back, and headbutted me square in the nose. Just right as I stood in front of him. I was a foot from him. Just slammed me right in the nose. Instantly, searing pain. It's one of the few memories I have in this long relationship that I actually remember the physical pain in that moment, just searing.
Marie, again, the jury rejected that. That is a clear example. If the jury believed that, that would be a clear example of domestic abuse. Johnny Depp wouldn't have won his claim. This is an incident that was documented by actual photos of her injuries or perceived injuries on her nose and under her eyes. And yet, and by the way, there was a Melanie Iglesias, who was Amber Heard's makeup artist, testified she had to cover up these bruises. But again, the jury did not believe this. And again, this is an example where you say it wouldn't amount to a perjury charge.
And I have to stick to that because it's, like I said, it's tricky. We're talking about beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't think that they didn't believe the headbutting occurred, but maybe the jurors just didn't believe that it happened how she said it. I think the jurors believed that a lot of her injuries were results of reactive violence on the part of Johnny Depp, and I think it was basically forgiven by them. It was never said that it was like an assault case, but this is almost like all the allegations were allegations of assault. And I think Johnny succeeded in convincing the jury that whatever injuries Amber sustained, it was because he was defending himself. They didn't buy the headbutting, but to say that it never occurred that their heads collided in a struggle where he might have been trying to protect himself, they didn't discount that either.
Aside from the perjury case, could someone be brought up on an additional defamation charge for their testimony? For, in other words, let's say, for example, okay, Amber Heard testifies to this, right? And Johnny Depp suffers so much damage. They say, you're a person who headbutts women. You're never going to be in another movie. Can he sue her for defamation for this story?
I don't think that he would, because it would be a duplication. It would be a waste of his money to hire an attorney to do that. And it would just be overkill because he's proven his point already. He's redeemed his reputation. And I don't think he would go through that. And even with the statements she made after the verdict, which I find to be a duplication of defamation, he's not going to go after her because he's done. He's won.
And it doesn't matter. One, she's saying sexual assault. One, she's saying physical assault. It doesn't change the fact that you still feel the same about perjury.
I think
it's not the level of offense. It's not, that's a really bad thing to say on the stand. It doesn't change how you feel about it.
I think in this case, pertaining to Amber and her allegations, it doesn't rise to the level of anyone prosecuting her because he's already redeemed himself. I think that's all I can say on that level. She's not even worthy of going out to prosecute her on that.
Well, I'm going to give you one final example that we're going to talk about. This is a big one. This is a big one because it's the infamous May 21st, 2016 event. This is when Amber Heard alleges that Johnny Depp threw a cell phone at her face. There was a lot of aftermath from this. The police were called. There was testimony from friends of Amber Heard. This ultimately led to her getting the TRO. Let's play a portion of it. We'll break it down on the other side.
With that, picks up, just pulls his arm back with the phone and throws it at my face. Hit me right in it felt like my eye. I put my head in my hands and immediately start crying. I said, "You hit me with the phone. Johnny, you hit me." And I'm sitting on the couch. I didn't even have time to react, I didn't even have time to put my hands up. I was still sitting cross-legged in my socks on the couch. And I haven't seen him for a month. And last, several times now that I've seen him, he's hit me. And I didn't even have time to react to this.
All right, again, so this is one where police responded. They didn't see any injuries on her face. Rocky Pennington did testify. This is Amber Heard's friend, that she did observe these injuries. She was shown photos of Amber Heard's face with what appeared to be red bruises on her face. This was a very, very controversial event. This is, I have to believe, if they interview the jurors, this was going to be a big point for their discussion. And yet, once again, Marie, I'm going to ask you, you're saying no consequences for Amber Heard to say this on the stand and the jury coming back and saying, we don't believe it.
I say no consequences primarily because in order for them to prosecute her for perjury, the level of the burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. And it would be very hard to show beyond a reasonable doubt that it never happened. Now, if we're talking about a situation where, I don't know if you remember years ago, Little Kim was involved in witnessing a shooting. Mm-hmm. And she went to a federal grand jury, and she said, I never saw my friend, whoever it was, shoot a gun at that person. And when they looked at video footage from the location, they saw Little Kim opening the doors for the same person who she said she never saw pull a gun. They saw the person pulling the gun right next to Little Kim and firing. Now, in a situation like that, we're talking about a criminal case, and she lied. And that was undisputed. The video showed her on the premises, seeing what she said she never saw, and under oath she testified. They prosecuted her for perjury. And she did, I think, about a year in jail. In a situation like that, the government would go after a declarant who made a bold-faced lie like that. But in Amber's position, I think it's different. And also, they're looking at it from the standpoint that it's a civil issue. She never really had him arrested and charged with rape. So in that regards, maybe that's why they're treating it kind of like with kid gloves, because he didn't do jail time for what she's saying. But
just to play devil's advocate, if this was an example in a civil case,
right,
if she says Johnny Depp on May 21st, 2016 at 8 p.m. threw a cell phone at my face, hitting me, and they have a video of him at a Dodgers game, okay, showing that he was not even with her at that time, and they present that, and clearly, he would win the case. Would a prosecutor then say, she clearly lied on the stand? You got me there. The answer would be yes. Okay.
If he wasn't even on site,
okay,
there's no issue of proving that she lied beyond a reasonable doubt.
Okay, so for all of our listeners who've been asking this question about whether or not Amber Heard would be charged or could be charged with perjury, the answer, and Marie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is obviously anything is possible, but it is extremely unlikely. The burden of proof is incredibly high to prove that kind of charge. And this is more of a case where whatever was presented in this civil trial doesn't necessarily mean that this event didn't happen. Not necessarily that Amber Heard was never sexually assaulted by Johnny Depp or never physically assaulted, but what was presented to this jury was not enough for her to overcome a defamation claim, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Marie Pereira, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
It was great having you on here. We should have had you on a little bit more during the crux of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard Sidebar podcast, but I'm sure once we continue this, we're going to have you on again. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. All right. This has been Sidebar. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. We'll speak to you next time.